why and how we became who we are at Digital Nomad. Today I have a very special friend, Tony. I'll let him introduce himself.
Yes, so my name is Tony, originally from England. I got to Guatemala about eight years ago now, and I started off working in a hostel, working in bar, managing said bar, and now teach online, and it gives me a bit more of the freedom to travel around. But this is where I'm pretty much based.
So you said you've been traveling for 8 years as a digital nomad, and when you set off, did you have any type of like savings apart that helped you have a cushion when you traveled? Or?
Yeah, so not really. When people tend to travel, they tend to save up for a long time and spend most of it traveling. I came because I had a little bit of free time because I was working in America at the time, so I came south here to Guatemala, and that's when I started working. And but really, I didn't have that much at all actually. But it was never really my plan to stay for very long.
What was your mindset like when you first set out versus now?
I might even stay here for 2 weeks. And 8 years later, I'm still here.
Nice. So when you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grow up? Did you always want to become like an English teacher, or did you always long to travel?
I think travel was always certainly in me. I always wanted to join, sort of like the military. I always wanted to join the Marines, and when I didn't get in, I thought, right, I'm going to go traveling. Then, and so I ended up here by chance. It was never the plan, but I sort of just fell into it. Now I just ended up here working online, and I'm always traveling about with my laptop. As long as there's Wi-Fi, I'm good.
So when you I don't know, to become who you are, did you go to college or anything, or how did you develop the skills that you have right now?
So I mean, I went to drama school for 3 years, so I was always one of those young people, aspiring actors who thought he'd be the next Tom Hardy, and so I picked up a lot of skills from said course. But like I said, the reality sort of kicked in when I finished, and I ended up coming here and by pure chance. So I guess I always wanted to. If I was ever going to become an actor, I always wanted to join the Marines. And so, but like I said, I ended up here purely by mistake, actually.
Purely by the same chances of by which we're here as humans. It's by coincidence.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the only one who ended up staying here for a lot longer than they originally planned.
Okay. So as a digital nomad, what do you think is like the biggest challenge you face in your day-to-day job?
What's the biggest challenge? Definitely keeping up your routines, whether it's reaching out to people who you can help, whether it's people coming to you. You've really just got to keep up that habit, that momentum to really get the business in, or really get work in. That's probably one of the hardest things, because you can't just go into work and it's all yourself, or you've got to create your own income.
So there's typically two different ways of creating income. It's either you work for someone or you work for yourself. You seem to be the type that works for yourself and get your own clients. Would you say that there's a benefit to working for someone so that you don't really have to worry about getting clients?
Yeah, that's a good point. So working for someone, the work's there, the paycheck's there. It's not your job to worry about getting clients or getting income or getting that cash flow. Working by yourself, that's your job. That's the main part of your job. And that's something you've got to constantly continue. But once you get into a good habit and once you figure it out, it's really not that difficult. It's actually quite straightforward. And then you sort of realise the amount of people you reach out to, where to reach out to them, and then eventually it clicks.
But you mean like, just like anything else, for example, coding. In the beginning it might be very difficult, but once you get over that hill, you start to know how to approach things, or the challenge gets a little easier. So like,
naturally, because you figure it out until you get it right. Make sure you keep up that.
So how would you describe what you do to a 5-year-old? If they were to ask, what do you do for a living? How would you describe your role?
How would I describe it to a 5-year-old? Talk to a screen all day, and I'm constantly asking for Wi-Fi passwords. I think that's the best way to explain it to a 5-year-old. I promise there's more to it, but...
So on your day-to-day, for someone that that wants to be like you, what skills should they develop, and which way or what can they do to develop the skills that you
Routine, habits. Sometimes, especially at the beginning, it can be very tedious, and it still sometimes is. Just to continue those, whether it's reach outs, whether it's the routines that you've created, you just gotta. That's the hard. You just gotta continue, especially at the beginning when not much is really happening. You just gotta continue that push.
So in the beginning of reaching out and networking with people, you kind of get like cold responses in a sense, and it can feel difficult and discouraging, but you're saying that you just gotta push through that?
Yeah, discouraging is the word. If you reach out to 1,000 people and a few get back to you, that's still a few people who can seriously. Yeah, exactly. So it's a numbers game. It's a numbers game, if I'm honest.
Just like everything else. So why did you choose to do what you do? Why not work for and get a paycheck? Where do you see yourself in like are you building an entrepreneurship? Are you why do what you do?
So why do what I do? I think freedom was always important for me. Freedom was always important, to work where you want, not have to get up for someone else, not have to do an overly stupid amount of work. I mean, if you work for someone else, you get what they give you. You know, it's not up to you how much you earn. So I guess I've always been one of those people who wanted more.
Yeah.
So and I think that that's normal. And a lot of people have the mindset of I can't do it. Oh, it's not possible for me. This is the life I grew up in. This is what I'll be doing. I always wanted more, and I never really believed it.
Yeah.
So I just always wanted that.
Do you think that abundance mindset is
Definitely. I mean, that's the beginning. You need something to push you through those cold calls or cold messages, or not cold calls, like cold messaging, that sort of thing. Because I don't cold call anyone, but I do reach out to people who have never heard of me before, who I don't even know.
that's what gets you more growing?
Yeah, because if not, I'll be going back to my 9 to 5, which it's not quite for me.
Do you think that the sacrifice that you're putting in for freedom is worth it? I mean, you're calling thousands of people every week. You might not even get any responses. It can feel discouraging. You're burning through your savings or whatnot. Do you think that it's worth pursuing freedom at the end of the day? Like, what if nothing works out?
If nothing works out, I mean, you can always go back to your 9 to 5. You can always go back home, but I don't believe it can't work out. I don't believe that.
I like that.
I don't believe it can't work out. If you generally put habits in place and you do those things, you genuinely do those things. And if worst comes to worst, you can always go back home, get a job, blah, blah, blah. But I don't believe it. If you're genuinely giving value to people and you learn to network it. Well, when what I do, then I think you're very right.
Well, since we're talking about habits and stuff, there's a quick question. Do you think it's easier to make a habit or easier to break one?
Easier to make or break a habit. I mean, it's certainly easier just to give it all up and go back to your easy 9 to 5, where everything's just there for you, your comfortable paycheck. So it's certainly easier to break one. But then you've got to think of the consequences about that, which is why to me it's easier to not break one. But that's how I see it. Is it easier to break one when you want to just give up? Yes, it absolutely is. But not for me.
So someone that's in a drinking habit, it's easier to break that than it is for them to make the habit of exercising, for example?
Say that again.
So someone who has a habit of drinking, would it be easier for them to break that habit than it is for them to pick up like a habit for exercise?
Oh, I see. Well, I mean, it's like if you love sugar, it's easy just to continue eating sugar if you have to stop. So yeah, I mean, habits aren't, they're not easy to continue, and they're very, very easy to break.
So do you have like a certain routine do you have like a morning routine that you follow through that helps your day go better, or like what habit have you developed that you've seen like tremendous improvement within your day-to-day progress?
So if you have, for example, if you know how many people you need to reach out to, you sort of get to know the response percentage. So once you build these habits in place, then and continue with them, you're only really gonna foundation in there in the first place.
So you say like it helps you predict where you're going?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, eventually you sort of figure it out anyway. You know, do I have a morning routine? Yeah, I have cold showers. I've got showers to wake myself up. I might not check my phone for the first hour so I don't get distracted. So I don't have to worry about a message that I get from someone anytime soon. I worry about that after I've had my first hour without looking at social media. Little things like that.
You know, I'm dabbling around these habits because I do feel like these little things actually matter, and I think that many of us don't pay enough attention to the little things that we eventually have in our day-to-days.
So yes, those little things add up.
Yeah, it does add up. I think it really does.
People are their habits.
Yeah. So how do you? I don't know, because I feel like the reason why more of us are digital nomads is also because some of us are stuck in a cycle of bad habits and stuff of that nature. Whether it's caused by trauma or whatnot, but it's usually like just a cycle of bad habits. But how do you break out of those bad habits? And like is it by reading? Is it by surrounding yourself by people that have those habits? How do you find these people? Like worst case scenario, if you can't help yourself, how do you get help, right? When you're in a rabbit hole.
Well, as a coach, what I first of all do, I mean, first of all, to break a bad habit, you just got to stop doing it first of all. And after about 30 days of fighting, that's when the habit tends to become a bit more natural. But first, we got what I do with the people I coach is help them really imagine they've got their final outcome, and then sort of look backwards to what they did to them, so they can really imagine having that. So when this bad habit comes, they've got their real image in their head of what they actually want. So why they're doing it, really experience it instead of just saying, oh, I want this. They really experience it. So whenever times get tough, whenever doubt comes in, I mean, you're going to doubt. Everyone's going to doubt, no matter what happens. So when those doubts do come in, first of all, know those doubts are coming. They're going to come. It's not going to stop. Then remember why you're doing it. And what I like to do is I like to create that experience of the thing, because we live life through our senses. So I create that experience, and they've already got that. What do they do to work backwards? So whenever that bad habit kicks in, they think, right, that's not what I want. This is what I want. And little things like that I do.
So let's talk a little bit about your coaching experience. Why did you choose to get into coaching?
So coaching was something I fell into accidentally. I didn't actually know what it was until a friend of mine, until I heard a friend of mine created it. He had a podcast and I listened to it. He makes some good points. I quite like what he's talking about. So I looked more into it. Then I realised that it's actually something that can genuinely help me. So what I do is I used to teach. I know there's a lot of stress in teaching, for example. So I found a niche and something that people actually need. So when you've got that, and you've got that bit in place, you know your service is good, and you just now need to, pretty much. And that's where the habit starts.
That sounds really good. So when you got into teaching, you mentioned that you could also work remote as an English teacher, right?
Yeah. So I started remotely as an English teacher, and during the pandemic, I had to earn money somehow because I couldn't go home, and if I did, it would have been so many complications at the time. So I had to somehow make it work here. So that's when I started online teaching. That's when I started to really have that first experience of like the nomad life.
What qualifications did you have to allow you to find a job easier, and what platforms do you use to get clients?
Oh, I see. So online, there's many websites you can use to teach. You don't necessarily need a qualification to do it, but you can either go on a website, they take a certain percentage, the clients come and find you, you make your video, whatever, make it fancy if you want, or you can advertise yourself on different platforms, create a logo, give your services, people reach out to you, and then you go forward from there. And you can use free Facebook groups, for example. Here in Antigua, there's an Antigua group, so you put your logo on your group. This is just an example, and then people reach out to you, you've got your information, and that's how it started for me, teaching anyway.
Okay, that sounds nice. And your coaching, you said coaching is basically a combination of teaching and what else?
So it's a combination of sort of mindset growth. It basically gets you to where you are, to where you want to be. So that's what I do. I help people with a confidence mindset. I help people with bad habits. I help people with gaining clarity. Which do you think gaining clarity? What do you want? People don't know. You'll be amazed. People they don't really know. They really thought about it. They don't know why they do things. So that's why I got into it. Because it actually helped. It really helps me.
And I think it helps you too as a person. It helps you see see more clearly, because you can see better from people's perspective.
Yeah.
How about what do you think? What do you think are the challenges when it comes to? What do you think are the highlights of challenges that you can go through when you're coming in English teacher? It seems like there's not very much. You can freelance online. And what do you think are the first few things to become a coach successfully?
So first of all, with English teaching, people asked me about it when I did it. They said, what do you do? How do you start? So it's actually quite easy. It's actually quite easy. Anyone can teach English if you know English. There was just the problems that people had was they didn't know where to start, they didn't know how to finish a lesson, how to end a lesson, what information to give, that sort of thing. And eventually you figure it out. And regarding to coaching, what was your coaching question?
What is the highlight of the challenge that you faced while becoming a coach?
Oh, so it was everything was new to me. Online was new to me. I knew how to coach. Like teaching, I had to teach. I just didn't know how to necessarily get people to me. So what was hard for me was to get people to, first of all, pay what I charge, but get people in my space, in myself. And again, that requires a lot of talking, a lot of reaching out. That's when habits become involved. You've got to do a lot of writing. That was difficult at the beginning. Nothing really happened, but eventually, it picks up if you just keep going to it. Like I said, I had plenty of value to give. So.
You mentioned something about having a bunch of calls, to get clients, right? How many clients do you aim to get, and how long do you usually retain your clients for?
So I do a 12-week program, and I reach out I try to do at least 30 people a day minimum. The more you reach out to, the more you're going to get. Again, like I said, it's a numbers game, but I get about
900 people a month.
Yeah, so from that I might get less than 10%. Oh, I see. I wish. Probably not even that. But let's say I reached 100 people a week, for example. You might get less than 10%. You might get zero. You do. Oh yeah. I mean, you only need a few clients to be able to live very well.
And this is for tuition or
this is mainly for coaching. English, it's not as difficult because it's just a lesson that you don't charge too much for. And English, you've also got websites where the students might do that's easy. That's math easy.
So now that we've discussed why and how you became an English teacher and a coach, let's discuss a little bit about your philosophy, mindset, and perspective. When you were, did you travel at all when you were younger?
It doesn't count because it's not that great. That's why it doesn't count. And everyone goes there. It's a very touristy town.
But I guess what I was trying to allude to is how has your perspective shifted from living in London all the time versus traveling?
I mean, living in London, first of all, you're living off breadsticks. You live on breadsticks. It's a very expensive place to live in. Your life's very not much happens because you're spending everything you earn on things like rent, travel, etc. So when I came here, I never had that problem. Everything here is a lot more. It's true. Everything here is a lot more relaxed. You can, especially what I do now, you can work from where you want. You can charge what you want, stay within reason. And if you're doing 10 lessons a day for $10, $15 an hour, that's your rent paid for on a day. Compare that to life in London, where everything I earned just went to breadsticks, you're just getting by. But if that's the life you want to live, then that's what you do. It wasn't for me.
I feel that. Alright. So how about like when it comes to, you obviously don't have a life work balance issue.
I do my best to sort it out. Yeah. I mean, I don't believe in. Is work-life balance something you really want? Is work because you're basically insinuating that they're just as valuable. I might put 80% into life and then 20% into work because one's more valuable, for example. Obviously, it depends on the individual. So is work-life balance equal? Is that really an outcome that you really want?
With Digital Nomad, 20% of your work.
Oh, little work. Yeah, well, you know, that's why we're here. Me personally, not as much work as I like to sort of being free. That's me personally. You know, your time's very important. So if you're giving value to someone, let's say, because I do, I give people value so I coach people between 1 hour and 2 hours a week. So and it's a 12-week program, so it's not really, I'm not running for very long. So I think to people who like to roam around a bit, I think the life part is a bit more important. I like to think. I didn't get this in London. There was no wiggle room. You don't get this with your 9-to-5 job. Wiggle room is not. It's not something that comes up.
What do you think is the most valuable thing you've learned since traveling?
I generally travel abroad in mind.
What's that?
I generally believe travel abroad in the mind.
It opens your mind.
And that you don't have to stay home. You don't have to follow everyone else. Which a lot of people are slowly but surely coming out of doing. Which is what was always my plan originally.
Nice. So you feel like with an open mind you make better decisions?
I like to think so. Because if I didn't, I'd probably still be back in London. I'd be comfortable. It was alright, but it's not what I wanted.
Well, I can't really think of any more questions, so I think that we're wrapping it up right now, especially because trying to keep all these episodes below an hour. But yeah, it's been an immense honor having you on this podcast, Tony, and I hope someone watching can take your advice with a grain of salt on becoming an English teacher or an online coach. Is there any last piece of advice that you want to give the audience that they can take with them?
Just do it if you want to do it. Yeah, just do it. Put all your attention into that thing that's going to, if you want to be a digital nomad, I'm guessing you're working now, just put that as much attention as you've got. That extra free time, just put it aside to the extra thing you're doing, the side hustle that you're doing. If that's what you want to eventually do, when you have the time, put as much time into it as possible.
Or build habits around it.
That's essentially what it is. Yeah.
So build habits around the things you want to do.
Yeah, and eventually you might leave, assuming you work in your normal job, as much time, just attack the extra time you've got to really build your side hustle.
Well, you heard it from him in person, so nice having you on the podcast, Tony.
All right.
Thank you.